back to another episode of Brandon's Face, everybody. It's the one where the gang gets delayed. We are coming to you about a week late. Our boy Brandon here was on the mend, but he is back on his feet and joining us to talk about some fucking music. Brandon, how are you doing, buddy?
I am doing better than I was on Wednesday.
Yeah, man, that hits me at least once a year to where I'm just like, I need to go away for a week and nobody's going to see me or talk to me because I am that sick. I'm glad you're getting through it. I'm glad you're able to join me tonight. This is going to be our last normal weekly music review of the year. We're going to get into our Albums of the Year podcast in a couple days here.
Days.
So that should be fun. If you guys are following along with our weekly rotating playlist, we're going to be uploading our favorite EDM songs of the year to the playlist after this, and then we will be embedding our top albums of the year on our website, brandonsface.com. So be sure to check all that out. We're really excited to get into that, but before we do, we got to talk about everything this week. So Brandon, you want to talk about some music?
I'm ready.
All right, man. First up this week, we got a new one from DJ Hansel, aka Dylan Francis. This one's called Gumby, man. This song is fucking awesome.
I know.
How you feeling about it?
I have liked each and every single track he's released as part of this project so far. This track is no exception. It's a banger.
Yeah, man. Nothing will make me more excited for 2023 than a DJ Hansel album announcement.
Right.
And it seems like things are possibly headed in that direction.
Right.
But we're just going to have to dig one deeper if we really want it, I guess.
So I actually had an interesting question. I'm not sure if you can answer it. I'm gonna actually look it up. So we've got Dylan Francis, who is DJ Hanzo. We've got Eric Prydz, who is Cerez D. We've got Porter Robinson, who is Virtual Sky, right? And so my question is, these festivals who have radius clauses, if Cerez D was booked for a festival, would that apply to Eric Prydz? If Dylan Francis was booked for a festival, would that apply to DJ Hansel as well?
I would think not.
I would think not as well. I'm very curious.
It's a completely separate act.
Right.
That would be like a radius clause on Tool, and then it's like, what does that apply to a Perfect Circle as a result? I don't think it applies to the members of the band, but in terms of a pop star, that might be a little different. But I think in terms of musicians that are in more than one band or DJs under separate aliases, that's completely different music. So I don't think that would be the issue.
Well, I was just curious. I think so too. I agree with you.
Yeah, we'll have to look that up. That's interesting.
I will do that.
All right, next up we got a new one from Emotional Oranges called On My Way. We have not reviewed their last few singles, but they have a new project dropping this week, actually. So we'll catch up on all of that soon enough. What did you think of this track?
The droning vocals and the repeating synths, the synths kind of layering on this track are great. I liked this.
Yeah, man. This one it's not their best track, but it's not bad. We will definitely be checking out that album whenever we run through everything we missed in December. Next up, I threw on a Christmas song for you, Brandon. I threw on a Christmas song for you.
I appreciate you.
I do. I like the occasional Christmas song if it's original and if it's good, which this checks both of those boxes. This is Genevieve's song Christmas Special. Like I said, man, I'm usually not a huge fan of Christmas music, but this is excellent. This is really fucking good. What did you think of it?
This is done really well. As you know, I'm a sucker for Christmas music. We were recently playing some as we were putting up our tree. I'm really picky with it though. And this did indeed pass the vibe check.
It does. It passes the music test for sure. Next up, we got a new one from Cherry 22 called Sacrifice. This is further proof that I don't hate all covers, Brandon. This is her cover of Song by the Weeknd. I'm sure you caught on to that by the end. What did you think of it?
It's slow.
Yeah, I thought she did a good job reimagining the song, and I think it's cool to hear her cover a song of the Weeknd's after signing to EXO, but not that exciting.
Yeah.
Speaking of not that exciting, we got a new one from Tone Stiff called Bed. I obviously up front, we all could have done without the bed spring sample on the instrumental in this one. His voice sounds great as always. He does some really good runs on this track, particularly in the second verse. it's crazy that he hasn't released a song all year up until now. Even though it's not my favorite of his, I'm happy to hear him again. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I was actually really excited to see Tone Stith on the playlist this week, but this one kind of let me down a little bit.
Yeah, it's a bummer. And I think it's a good thing that it let us down because that means our expectations were high and that they were so high because he dropped two incredible EPs last year.
He sure
He's been
did.
on a run for the last 3 years of just putting out incredible music. This was the first one that just didn't really hit me. But he posted a video on his Instagram from one of his live shows recently. And you kind of forget that, like, he is still a very small artist and very much up and coming. Like the dude's playing like, couple hundred at the to a couple hundred people at the most in these places.
Damn.
So he's definitely like earning his stripes. He still gives it his all, man, no matter how many people are in the crowd. I respect him. I hope he gets some more recognition this year, but this song's going to be difficult to do that with because I don't know how familiar you are with Jacques, but he's another R&B guy who was pretty big in the mid to late 2010s there, and he has one of his biggest songs is called BED as an acronym like this, and it's like same lyrical concept, everything. So I don't know. I feel like this is only going to be for fans of hardcore R&B, but I don't think hardcore R&B fans are going to like this very much.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I was not aware of that, but yeah, we'll see what else Tone decides to put out. Hopefully,
We
something more
will.
next year.
I'm always excited for it. Up next, we got a new one from Chernio and Jid. This one's called Lo Tengo. I have never heard of Cherneo until now, but this track's a lot of fun, and Jid continues his bid for Rapper of the Year with another great verse. How did you like this one?
Jid is basically the only thing I liked about this track. I think his verse is great, but the other vocalists both had flows that I just really couldn't connect with. The beat is great, and I kind of love the bongos that come in towards the end, but
Mm-hmm.
Jid was really the standout for me here.
Hey man, super fair. Last single this week. We don't have many. This one is All Them Witches. Hush, I'm on TV. You threw this one on. Talk to me about it.
This is like the second or third time we've covered all them witches. I just really like
It
them.
is.
It's just really good blues rock, man. And
You
that
just like
album
All Them
cover is
Witches.
fucking dope.
It is. It's a fucking sick album cover. It's a really good blues rock track with some nice riffs. It's also got a little bit of that premium cable title sequence music feel to it, but it's not bad. She took off her shirt twice, Brandon. All right. You ready to talk about some albums?
Yeah, man, let's go.
Let's go, man. First up, we got Stormzy's new album. This is what I mean. I'm gonna dive in first if you don't
Please,
mind
please,
here.
please, please.
I, this is what complete freedom sounds like. You can tell he went into this recording process with no preconceived notions of what this album was supposed to sound like. And the result is probably his most ambitious and revealing album to date. Lyrically, Stormzy's always been trying to tell you that he's not just a grime icon. He doesn't need to remind us of that anymore, and he doesn't need to keep trying to remake Gang Signs and Prayer to keep his fan base happy. This album might be a little softer than some fans were hoping for, but this is always where his sound was going. He was just it's about confidence, and I feel like he just has the confidence to try this now. He grew into his singing voice a lot more on that second album, and we heard him doubling down on that confidence in his natural chest voice on this album. It isn't technically great, but it's always effective when he does it. And I don't have a track by track breakdown for this one, but I'll run through my thoughts on a few of these. I really enjoyed the progressive structure of Fire and Water as an album opener. It's strong lyrically, well written, produced, and performed. I thought Hide and Seek and Fire Babe were good choices for singles in terms of indicating what the album would sound like as a whole. I still think I prefer Hide and Seek over Fire Babe, but they're both good tracks. Of the album cuts, I really enjoyed My Presidents Are Black and would like to see that as an eventual single, but the standout on this one is obvious, man. It's the title track. It's This Is What I Mean, which is not only the best song on this album, but I'm going to say a top 10, maybe top 5 Stormzy song all time.
I'll agree
Everything
with you
about
there.
it is, yes, it's absolutely perfect, man. In terms of critiques, though, my only real gripe is just the album gets a little too sleepy after My Presidents Are Black. There's some beautiful moments on the back half of this record, but tonally, it gets a little monotonous. It's not a perfect album or my favorite Stormzy album, but it is a good album, and I'll definitely be coming back to it. I got this one like a 7.5. How are you feeling about it?
All right. Well, this is actually really beautiful, and I wasn't kind of expecting that. I was just really not expecting a record that was going to be so
It's jarring.
introspective. I was very pleasantly surprised. The album doesn't really lag as some do with this style of production, and I did stay
Mhm.
engaged for the majority of it, but some of the slower tracks do kind of lull me a bit. It's never for too long or long enough for me to lose my attention, though, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes perfect sense.
His flow and his lyricism is just so him.
Yep.
I really enjoy it, man. I got a line quote here. If you're my holy water, girl, just let me drown. Great lyric that starts off this
Yep.
record with on fire and water. The sultry guitars behind his vocals, purposefully, almost like whispering. The flute then comes in. The progression in the track as the drums and percussion comes in, man, it's just a gorgeous track. This is what I mean. It's fucking hard. I absolutely love the way this kind of progresses from the intro as well. The piano work and strings on Holy Spirit are just sublime. I Got My Smile Back is just incredibly beautiful, both
Great
instrumentally and
song.
lyrically. Overall, man, I really like this record. There are tons and there's just tons and tons of meaning here. Every time I came back to it, there was another detail that I heard. And there are a ton of really gorgeous musical and instrumental moments on this. And I'm really glad he put it out. And I'm glad that you introduced me to Stormzy this year, as he probably would have gone over or under my radar here. My standout is This Is What I Mean, or I Got My
Of
Smile
course.
Back. It depends on the mood
Yeah.
that I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah. This is what I mean is an all or nothing
Yeah.
track.
I have it super high seven, low eight.
Yeah, same, same. All right, man. Next up, let's talk about this new Money Long album, Public Displays of Affection, the album. Uh, this album isn't as great as the best moments on it, but I needed you to hear it because Hours and Hours is easily one of the best R&B songs of the decade so far, and I felt like you needed to not just hear that, but the album it's a part of as well.
Yeah.
This album's a solid 7 for me. It's a little too long, a little too repetitive, but the highs are high and show a lot of potential, man. The first two tracks, Conversation and Cartier, do a great job setting the musical and lyrical tone for this album. There's some really good album cuts like Plot Twist and Time Machine and No R&B, but the best song on the album is A Mystery to Absolutely Nobody. Hours and Hours is nominated for R&B Song of the Year and should be a favorite to win. It's been a critical and commercial juggernaut, but she's going up against some other A-plus talents like Lucky Day. She spent most of her career writing hits for other artists like Rihanna, Fifth Harmony, Kelly Clarkson, Ariana Grande, Pitbull, and Kesha, and even contributed to Her's Grammy nominated album Back of My Mind last year.
Really?
She's
Okay.
always been a talent. It's just nice to see her get the credit for the talent. Um, so now that you've heard it, what do you think?
Okay. Damn. Mooney's got a voice.
Yeah,
I like this album quite a bit. It's not in my top five R&B of the year, but I think she has a
same.
fantastic voice. Isn't she also nominated for Best New Artist?
Yes.
Yeah. This whole record is really well produced, man, with very interesting lyrical content, and it's definitely my speed of R&B regarding like tempo.
Hmm.
Dude, her voice is definitely something special. Production is really well done. Really did enjoy it. I can see why she's nominated for the handful of Grammys that she is. Hours and Hours is not my favorite song on this record, man. The words stood out to me as the best vocal performance on
Interesting.
this.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. I
I
thought it'd be Plot Twist or Time Machine for you.
I gave it a 7.
Fuck yeah, dude. Same score.
I did really enjoy it.
Yeah, I knew Hours and Hours wouldn't be your type of R&B song, but I knew you would understand what about it got her the nomination for it. That's
Yeah.
just pure runs, man.
So
It's
she
great.
was she a credited writer on Kelly Clarkson and her and all of that, or is she a ghost or was she a ghostwriter?
No, she's credited. She
Nice.
let's see here. So the Kesha and Timbaland song, she wrote Timber.
No
Or
way.
Kesha and Pitbull. That she
Yeah.
wrote Timber. She wrote Imagine by Ariana, which is the first song
Wow.
on Thank You Next. She
Good for
wrote Love
her.
So Soft by Kelly Clarkson, Worth It by Fifth Harmony, California King Bed by Rihanna, a bunch of songs, man. She's been
Wow.
working for a
Good for
while.
her.
Yeah, the music writing world is very interesting.
I'm sure it's a very vast yet still somehow tight knit circle of writers in those big worlds.
Yeah, man. It you always find just weird shit. Like I'll never forget when I found out Kelly or Katy Perry was in POD. Still getting used to
I know,
that one.
I know.
All right, man. Let's move on here. We got a new one from Io and Lights. This album is called Warehouse Summer. I don't really have a review for it. I always find posthumous releases to be hard to wrap my head around from a critical perspective, but
Yeah.
I wanted to add it to show some love to the late great Io. This is a project he was working on with Lights before his passing. I don't know what stage of completion it was in at the time he passed, but it seems to have been finished, and now we're getting to hear it. I thought that there were a lot of good songs on this album, man. Songs like Super Melt, Fever, Lost Together all give us a small taste of what made him so special. Lights has some excellent contributions throughout this album as well. I'm glad we got to hear it, but it only made me miss him more, man. So R.I.P. Io. What were your thoughts on this album?
Yeah, man. It was cool seeing him when I did. Yeah, the obviously rest in peace. I agree. It's kind of weird to talk about posthumous art albums from a critical perspective, and honestly, there's not much critical about this to talk about. It's a pretty straightforward house record, man.
Yeah,
But I do think that Lights elevated the whole album with her vocals.
I
You,
agree.
you can kind of hear both of their styles come through really well, both individually, and they clearly work pretty well together. Tracks like Leave It have fantastic breaks and really good progression. There's just really great progression throughout, and I'm just really happy we got this, man. There's warehouse moments that are softened by Lights, and there's more poppy moments that are made a little bit more heavy and industrial by Io's contributions. There's just a great balance between sounds here, and I really enjoyed it. My favorite was Fever. I didn't give it a rating.
Fuck yeah, man. I really love Fever too. That track's awesome.
Right.
Um, Kind of surprised she didn't like use the loon alias for this, but I guess that's a different style of music. She's just doing vocal
Yeah.
contributions here, not really production.
It's possible that she did a little bit of production, but I think she really wanted to just stand out as I look. If it was me and it was done, and this was being done posthumously, I wouldn't want to plug anything new that I was doing. You
No,
know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So I feel her, and I kind of like that decision of her to just stay as the co-creator of this album.
Well, yeah, I think Loon is what? That's the alias. That's a side project. I think that Lights
Right.
is still her main thing. Didn't she just do a song with Dead Mouse last year under Lights?
She
As
did. The music video
yeah.
is really wild, man. I think that
I
was
don't
two
think I
years
ever
ago, though.
yeah, I don't God, we've been doing this podcast for a while, man.
Right.
Um, all right, man, let's move on here. We got a surprise one. This one's from Salvatore Ganacci. It's called Culturally Appropriate. I have been listening to the remix he did with Sebastian Ingrosso for How Do I Make You Love Me by The Weeknd since it came out. We will be talking about that in a few days in our remixes of the year
We
part of the
sure will.
show. But other than that, I'd never heard other music from him that I was aware of. I didn't know this album was dropping this week. I hadn't heard any of these singles. I just saw it was out and threw it on the playlist blind, and I'm glad I did because it turned out to be really fun and it made me a fan of his just beyond that one remix. Some of the standouts. It opens with the incredible and dance. We get Let You Do This, which is kind of a de facto Swedish House collab. We get this kind of breakbeat new generation song, but my absolute favorite on this one has to be I've Done My Own Research, which just encapsulates everything I love about this album in one song. I don't know where this album ranks in terms of best dance albums of the year. It's really impossible to judge that against anything else without recency bias playing into it. I'm gonna give it a 7. It's equal parts Swedish House and Disclosure, but it's also uniquely its own thing. I'm a big fan of this. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I actually had no idea that he was a part of that. I thought that I had remembered seeing the name, but then none of the tonal styles never rung a bell while I was listening to this album. Man, this is a bouncy house record, dude.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of fun to listen to. There's nothing that really you compared him to Disclosure. I'm going to disagree with that. I think Disclosure has a lot of what's the word? I'm trying to think of a word here. Uh, this is lacking a little bit of flavor, maybe. I don't know. Most of it is pretty basic, but it's a lot of fun to listen to when I want something housey and less engaging. Kind of like most of Defected record stuff, like Sonny Fodera's music, I really enjoy, but it's not anything that has a lot of depth. That's the word, depth. It's lacking a little bit of depth to for me to even be considered a part of the
Sexy
grander.
Narco Man isn't deep enough
I'm
for
telling
you.
you, man. I've done my own research. It's a great track, and that's a really good. That's a really good standout for you. I liked Marriage the best. That
Oh,
was yeah.
interesting.
I
Okay.
really liked that track. I actually thought it was a Defected Records release based on like the sound, but it is not. Record label I've never heard from. My Middle Beast.
Never heard about it either.
Never heard about it, but I did like this record. I gave it a high 6, low 7.
Fuck yeah. Would you check out another record of his?
Absolutely.
Yeah, same. Same.
Yeah. And if there was and like if I was at a festival and this dude was playing somewhere, I'd probably go want to go check it out. Like I'm not trying to shit talk him. I just
Oh, I
didn't feel there was a
definitely
lot of depth.
yeah, I think you and I very much know at a festival, depth is not always the most important thing. If And Dance opened up his set, that would make people fucking lose it, man. That's a
Right.
banger. Like
Right.
you got to have the stupid bangers as much as the deep stuff.
Exactly. If it's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, John and Brandon are a few beers deep, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, yeah, we're definitely doing that.
Definitely.
All right, man. You ready to talk about this Demi Lovato album?
I've been ready to talk about this album. I'm actually very excited too. So
Dude, fuck yeah. So this album is called Holy Fuck. It is Demi Lovato's album. I've had this one in my rotation for the past few weeks and I've really been enjoying it. The only time I don't enjoy it is when I try to figure out if it's a pop album or a rock album. But I'm sure you're going to tell me. So tell me how you feel about this one.
all right. First off, starting off your album with a Young Blood feature is not the way to my heart. I think he is incredibly annoying. Other than
Hard
that,
agree.
this entire album actually took me a lot by surprise, man. It's incredibly well produced, as is
I knew it
expected
would.
with any Demi Lovato album, but this one is clearly done with a lot of heavier motifs. I actually had heard that she put out a quote pop punk album earlier this year, and this was not a pop punk record in my opinion, but more so a kind of like pop influenced Marilyn
Glam
Manson
rock?
style. That was it was like recorded as Sum 41 was getting MTV play, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
You know how like LaCroix lime is flavored lime, but it's really like water transported in the same truck as a bunch of
Yeah.
limes.
Yes.
That's what this is to pop punk. Surprisingly, the title track "Holy Fuck" is the least angry of the bunch. Even though there are some really good riffs, the bass intro on Bones is fucking great. I got to admit, I thought we were going to be getting a pretty basic and like formulaic record, but we actually got a pretty dynamic sound in terms of like structure of both the tracks themselves and the album as a whole.
Yep.
I wouldn't hate it if she stuck to this style for a few albums. She's got some
Same.
anger, she should let it out, man. That being said, this is clearly a nostalgia core at this point. And like you and I have said many times, it's nice. As nice as it is to hear these modern pop artists paying homage to the genres that were and are currently coming back, it's far better to listen to and support the smaller bands, I think. I would only hope that on this tour she books a bunch of smaller local bands for whatever city she's playing in to open up for her
Sure.
wherever she goes. Doubt it'll happen, but it is what it is. High 6, low 7. My standout was Eat Me.
Interesting. I had a feeling you would really like Eat Me. I don't know why. I
It's
was
my
like,
jam, bro.
that's got to be a Brandon one.
I,
All right, man.
you know me too well, John.
I'm glad you enjoyed this one. I so this album, I think it's really good. It's easily the most I've enjoyed an album to date. But before I get into my thoughts, I got to counter on something you said. And that is it's like a nostalgia pool and all of this, which I do agree with. But as somebody who's not entirely overly familiar with her older stuff, maybe I should bring my wife in here. Um, she comes from camp rock. She does come from
I
very
see.
vaguely pop rock based music. I don't think this is as crazy of a departure from where she started from as somebody like I don't know. I feel like Willow's a bad example, but you get what I'm trying to get at with that. I feel
Yeah.
like she's maybe slightly more equipped to be in this genre of music than people are giving her credit for.
Super fair.
And like you said, she has anger and you'd like to see her let it out a little bit more. She's clearly been through a very rough life and has been very vocal about the things she's gone through. And all of that translates not just lyrically, but palpably in the way she delivers these lines, man.
Yep.
Um, I don't really think authenticity matters. I think she's approaching this from as authentic of a place as she can given her circumstances. What really matters is the music, and the music on this album passes all of my tests. It's not a perfect album. I think the first half is much better than the second half. If this was a 6-song EP ending with 29, it'd be a 10. But it definitely wears thin despite having some great moments in the back half of the album as well. Happy Ending, of Angels are both album cuts. I think it was pretty funny of her as an ex Disney child or Disney star to do like sexual Disney innuendos in a song like that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, this album just really shines in the first half. Specifically, those first four songs. 29 is the song that best encapsulates the main themes of this album. But my favorite tracks are Substance and Eat Me, man. Eat
Nice.
Me just for the experimental, weird, just head dive into grunge, and as heavy as she can get this album to go. But Substance is, I think, the most catchy one and the one I keep coming back to. I'm gonna go a notch above you here. I'm gonna go like high seven, low eight.
Fair. That's super fair.
Yeah, I think she killed it on this one. It
I did
made me
like
a
this.
fan.
I did really like this album, and I hope we get more of this style from her.
But to your point, people should support smaller bands. And with that said, let's move into some of these other albums that
Let's
you
do it.
added here, because this is my first time experiencing some of these bands. First of which is Drug Church. This album is Hygiene. Is this a new one or one that you've been waiting to throw on?
It's one that I've been waiting to throw on. This one came out on March 11th, but I didn't find it in March. I found it a few months ago.
For sure, man. Well, talk to me about this one.
Honestly, I don't have a whole lot to say about it. I figured we would talk about it because it was the end of the year when it kind of needed to fill a week, and I wanted you to hear it. This is just a hard rock band making some really neat music, man. I'm not really sure where to categorize this band when it comes to genres, but God, these riffs are fucking awesome. The riffs have me coming back and back again. The cheeky lyrics are great too. This is
Yep.
apparently their fourth album, and it's made me want to go back and listen to their other work because I really did like this one. Not a terribly small band at 162,000 monthly listeners, but
Oh.
for some reason they flew under my radar a little bit. I give this one a high seven, low eight. Detective Lieutenant is my favorite one out of the bunch. What did you think, sir?
I thought this album was a lot of fun, man. It's both to the point and left of center punk
Right.
music that they perfectly described in their Spotify bio as too poppy for the heavy crowd and too heavy for the poppy crowd.
Yep.
That description might sound like it puts them at a disadvantage as a band, but I think that's an advantage. They could tour with Pup or Viagra Boys and not sound out of place at either show.
Right.
And those are two very different bands, despite both being in the punk rock genre. And I would consider buying tickets to either of their shows, actually. um, they're talented. They don't take themselves too seriously, which are the two main ingredients you need to make a good punk band like this. I'm going to give this one a solid seven. Plucked was actually my standout.
Nice. That's a good track.
Yeah, man, I really enjoyed that
I
one.
really like how when you push play, I hope you just push play on Fun's Over, like to just start the album from the start, because it just automatically slaps you in the face. It's just like, okay, here we go. This is what we're listening to.
I love it when an album does that. I was
Right?
working on some playlists last weekend, and nothing infuriates me more than when a song starts with like 4 seconds of fucking silence. Drives me nuts. Slap me in the face right away, please. Thank
Exactly. Exactly.
you. All right, man. Let's talk about this one. This is the album Kiss Me from a band called Trash.
Yep.
I don't think we've talked about them before, have we?
We have not. I'm just going to jump right in, my
Yeah.
boy.
Go.
Again, I don't have much to say about this record. This is actually one of two albums that they've dropped this year. Just a super indie emo band that I thought their lyrics were fucking amazing. I think that they were so on the nose, and, and I think that it's just a really fun emo record, man. It's kind of exactly what It's kind of exactly what this genre needs in its renaissance to keep just blowing up. You know, small little
Yeah.
band, under 10,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. So anybody who's listening to this podcast and has not checked Trash out, go do that. They are a lot of fun, and it's they released another album this year, Soporific, something like that, and I think that one's also really good. I just kind of randomly picked which one I wanted to throw on here because I've been sitting on this one for a while too. And yeah, man, that's it. I give this one a solid 7. It's a really good time, man. I came back to it a number of times because they're all small, minute and 30-second tracks.
Yeah.
It was just really easy to listen to.
Yeah, its runtime makes it a very easy listen. I agree.
Right.
Whenever I hear a band for the first time, I know I should try and hear them as their own thing, which I eventually do. But the first thing I always do is try and figure out what bands they sound like or remind me of. This band was all over the fucking place, man. They go from sounding like La Dispute to Blink 182 to From First to Last to a million other bands. They clearly have influences from every corner of the genre, but how they channel those influences into their own sound is what makes them special. This is another album I'm also going to give a solid 7 to. My standouts being Garbage Fire and Head Under Water. But I really enjoyed this one, man. Thanks for adding it.
Yeah, no problem, man. You should go check out that other album that they released this year. They're both really good. I couldn't decide which one I wanted to throw on, so I just closed my eyes and put my finger on a song. So.
Of course you did. All right, man. I will definitely be checking out that other album. Okay, last up this week, we got one from a group called Earthrise. This one is called
Sure
Until We
do.
Rest Beneath the Winter Way. Love that title. Talk to me about this
Yes.
one.
All right, so I sent you a little bit of context for this album. I think I just sent
Yes.
you the Wikipedia page. Did you read through that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I did like a little bit more research because I got really nerdy about it. So this record is about
Love it.
Laika the dog, who was the first animal ever to orbit the Earth. Her story is just heartbreaking and just incredibly sad. So I'll leave her wiki down in the show notes just in case anybody wants to learn about it here. So this is a concept record, obviously, and it actually took this band 10 years to create. And I think it kind of would have been remiss of us to not cover it and at least give it some listens here. Something that takes 10 years to create is probably something very special to these people. Uh,
I
Look,
agree.
man, personally, I'm a fan of this record, and I think it's kind of right on the money conceptually. Let me explain. So this album kind of takes off with the new man and just erupts straight into chaos and madness. This, to me, represents the start of Leica's journey, the rocket up into space. As soon as takeoff occurred, her heart rate and breathing rate actually almost doubled, which is why I think Earthrise decided to just fucking pummel us into the ground at first. And then we reach orbit. The way the guitars kind of change key and from below is just wild, and the drums kind of come in as this kind of space rock fades into these doomy riffs. It's just fucking awesome, man. Everything kind of then falls apart with like feedback and harsh vocals and then breaks into this mogwai adjacent angsty post rock. I don't know, man. This song to me representing all of the emotions that one must feel while being in orbit against your will and taking in the beauty of what's happening while also taking in the anger, the frustration, and the desolate isolation. We go through a number of these moments throughout the record where we get frustration, anger, and then mirrored right back at you with serenity. It's really a great lesson in genre blending as we get so many different genres and styles, but it all really boils down to prog metal, progressive metal here. I really enjoyed this record, man. I listened to it a lot of times this week. I think the concept and the execution are both done really well. I give this a low 8. High 7, low 8, and I think I really liked it, man. I think From Below or Prisoners Cinema are my favorites. What did you think about this album, John?
Yeah, that was really nice. I mean, I feel like I would have been a little more lost without that, but I love a good concept album. So you sending me that link actually hooked me into wanting to listen to it more.
Nice.
Yeah, I read the page. We'll definitely have to link that below so others can as well. I don't really have a deep breakdown on this one. I just really liked the album. My favorite song on it is Our Work in the Stars Cannot Wait. I ran that one back
Great track.
multiple times on the first listen, and I enjoyed this whole album a lot more than I thought I would. I'm probably gonna have to rate it, yeah, same as you, high 7, low 8. but it's an album that's so much more interesting than its subjective score would indicate. So I
Right.
really recommend people check this one out and read along with the concept that it's written about. I'm going to have to re-listen now that I've heard your review and kind of see if I catch that same flow of, going through, being in orbit, all of that. I think if they actually did pre-think out all of that, which it really does feel like they did given the time and work that went into this record, this is one that's really special and should be for sure appreciated.
Yeah, it's just the story of the dog really kind of put me in this state of God, how did that dog, how must that dog have felt? And when I dived more into the story, it actually seems like Leiko was not the first choice. The first choice ended up getting pregnant and having puppies, and Leiko was the second choice. So she wasn't actually first slated to go to space, but then was, you know, arbitrarily chosen to do this crazy thing that inevitably was ultimately for the human race a good thing, but clearly a tragic ending. And it just, I don't know. I think this album really did invoke those emotions for me, and I hope you go back and listen to the whole thing back, and you kind of put all of those things together. Because I mean, if it were me and I'm in a spaceship and I'm in orbit, right, things probably spinning around and I'm getting views of the Earth, so serene and beautiful, and then views of desolate nothingness, and like that
Yeah.
seems, it seems so. That seems like there would be such like a dichotomy there that I think they explored very well with the tonalities of this record. So, thank you for this, Earthrise. This was a good listen.
This was fucking awesome. I enjoyed it. We are not doing our normal weekly music review next week, so
This
new
week.
albums coming, or this week, new albums that we would be reviewing. I don't think anything really dropped last week. The new Metro Boomin dropped last week. Did you check out any of those songs?
Yeah, I checked out the one you sent me, and I
The
just
Weekend.
yeah, just like a handful of other ones. We can cover that at the beginning of the year, but I think we should, wait on that because there's some more important shit to be done.
There is, and that is our albums of the year episodes. We're going to be doing our electronic albums of the year episode in 2 nights. I believe Wednesday night is the plan. So we should have that to you first thing Thursday at the latest. We really hope you guys tune in for it. We're very excited to do that one. If you guys enjoyed this episode and you are not already following along with us wherever you get your podcast, please do so. Rate us if you're listening on Spotify, like the video if you're watching on YouTube. Follow along with our weekly rotating playlist, link in the show notes, and we'll see you guys in a few nights. Peace.
Peace.